I'm Mark Seifter.
And I'm Linda Zayas-Palmer.
And Eleanor Ferron is down there. And
Hi,
this
Eleanor.
is Arcane Mark.
Hi.
Welcome, everyone, to Arcane Mark Asks Eleanor Ferron.
And welcome especially to Eleanor. Eleanor, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
As you can read on the bottom, Eleanor is a Pathfinder developer at Paizo. So, Eleanor, we're going to start by asking you exactly the same two questions that we start every time. First is, how did you get into playing Pathfinder?
Playing Pathfinder specifically?
Well, you can decide if the story is more interesting if you also tell us, like, Pathfinder-esque RPGs or just Pathfinder or both. People have done differently every time.
It's kind of long, drawn-out process, really. I was interested in the books when my brother, I must have been around 10 and him 14, and he was buying the books when he was in high school. And I would, being a crappy younger sibling, go into his room and steal them to read them. That's how I got interested in all of the second edition TSR settings.
Uh-huh. And maybe the thief class.
I didn't get that far into the mechanics because I didn't actually get to play until I went to college. So
wow.
I didn't recognize how broken everything is. But by the time I got to college, they were playing 3.0. And so I started with that. The college I went to actually had an RPG club. The way it functioned is everyone would pay $5 for their dues, and we'd use the dues to buy books for the club library.
That's cool.
Nice. RPG books. And then you could check out the books to run the various games. So we started with 3.0 and eventually shifted over to 3.5 because 3.0 was broken. And
what about the haste spell?
By the way, Linda started with 3.5, so she could just remember things we talked about in 3.0 being that were super strong.
I honestly mostly remember people being like, "Oh, this isn't as busted anymore."
Well, so we didn't have any modules though, so we played the old second edition modules where it was like, don't have this one specific spell, you can't proceed. We're just going to sit here until you have your cleric rememorize Stone Shape because they didn't specifically pick that spell for the day.
Oops.
And that means the adventure can't parse you not having that specific answer to the problem.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, from there we would just buy RPG books, try things out, and and Pathfinder and 4th edition diverged. We picked up both of them, honestly, and played both of them for a while. And I don't think any of those particular moves to those systems was terribly exciting. It was just,
fair enough. It was just another thing your club picked up that time. It's different for everyone.
Do you have a favorite character class or type of character to play?
Oh man, Linda, mixing it up.
I know, right?
I like to play paladins a lot because this is a fantasy setting and I like to pretend that I'm a good person.
Aww.
All right. Well, our usual second question is, how did you wind up working at Paizo? What's the story of that? So we know from you were in your club and it had 3.5, it had 4E and Pathfinder. You were playing those. What was your path from there to working at Paizo?
Mike, your guess is as good as mine on some of the details of that. I wouldn't really call this something anyone could try and learn from. But so I graduated into the 2007 and 2008 economic crash, and that was not a fun time. I had a job lined up after that, and then it fell apart because the company was not well managed. And then I just tried to freelance for a long time after that. It didn't go particularly well. Just a whole lot of failing. Um, and then at a certain point, Jessica Price had put out that open call for people to apply to the open positions for the developer at Paizo. Um, I just applied because she wrote that letter to apply. I had a decent amount of experience GMing these giant play-by-post games and had written a number of things for those, as well as some articles for the Fraternity of Shadows Ravenloft fan site, which, much like Ravenloft itself, is in a dark corner of the net where nobody goes and nobody comes out.
Shrouded in mists.
So I wasn't qualified for the jobs, and I didn't get them. But Wes Schneider said that he liked my Ravenloft work because he's a giant Ravenloft nerd, and offered me potentially to be a freelancer for Paizo. So then I poked him about that for like 8 months because easier said than done.
Yes.
Eventually got a couple of assignments for the Occult Bestiary, which was the first Paizo product that I worked on.
I remember those.
Which parts of the Occult Bestiary did you work
on? The Boggart. That's with the
T.
D?
Or no, with the T. It's the spooky Boggart.
Now you confused me.
No, the D the D one is the frog. The T one is the spooky one.
Yeah, I worked on the spooky one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Serpent Folk Reclaimer, and the last one the Ashura Vayufak, which I feel bad about doing because now when you search for that mythical creature, you find our drawing and no actual Vayufak, and I feel I've made the world a worse place. But so that was my first assignment, and then I waited another 7 months or so to hear back, and then Mark Moreland emailed me one day and was like, "Would you like to do 7,500 words on the plane of water?" Just out of the blue. You're going to have to ask Mark Moreland his logic on that particular.
Well, I know that like Occult Bestiary was. Surprisingly, I actually did some of your stuff there because it is not in the core line. It was me and Mark Moreland tag teaming it because of the fact that they grabbed a designer due to the occult connection and the fact that it was coming out close on the heels of Occult Adventures before every developer had time to like fully parse all of the occult rules. So the Mark Moreland connection to it was at the very least the fact that he read your stuff and thought it was really good. But if you mean how do you get from occult to plane of water, that is a pretty significant difference between the two of those.
Well, at least
it was sort of a jump in word count as well, from 1,500 random monsters to a small essay. Anyway, but.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I remember that like there was just generally like going around after you wrote your stuff that it was really good, and that was why we ended up reaching out to you for the scenario that you wrote.
Yeah. So after that, there were less 7-month or 2-year-long gaps where I had to poke everybody, but it was sporadically freelanced for Paizo. And the next time that hiring rolled around, I applied and got the job here, which is good because I'd sort of failed at freelancing with art. I had been trying to get into the RPG industry as an artist, and now I'm a writer, so that's how well that went. I had mentioned before on another interview that you're sort of told as a child that hard work can get you places, but you sort of expect the hard work that you are doing to get you to the place that hard work is working towards, and not a completely different field out of the blue from nowhere. But I'm not going to complain.
Eleanor, I'm going to tell you this. RPG art to RPG writing is far from the biggest leap of other people that are around. Architecture, chemical engineering,
education,
and math, philosophy, artificial intelligence, and that's just us and people who currently or before were on the design team. It's pretty close. A lot of people who might have in the RPG industry jumped from somewhere completely different, probably because we just all love RPGs.
Baking, military, coffee farming.
That's right. Coffee farming.
I'm pretty sure I'm the least qualified person at Paizo, not for RPGs, just for anything else. Because we have some very interesting people there.
Well, I mean, Owen has always talked about, but he's not at Paizo anymore, the fact that he just got great at making RPGs and games. He did not graduate college with a degree like most of the rest of us have. So his one thing is that he's amazing at making games. But he's not at Paizo anymore, so I don't know. You might be right, Eleanor. But I couldn't tell you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think that it's really awesome how people come to Paizo from so many different backgrounds, and how everyone has a completely different spin and perspective to bring to the work that we do.
Absolutely.
So you talked a bit about your art, and I know that like you've got all these like really adorable cartoons on your whiteboard, and it's always fun to be like, oh look, it's the Leshy ice cream and stuff like that. But you've done.
Didn't Eleanor submit a little cartoon version of her Pathfinder Society scenario?
Yes.
That indicated what was going on in the scenario, there was like a chibi kraken and.
Yeah, that was amazing. I totally printed it out immediately and stuck it up at my desk, and then I remember.
I think you put it on the door of your.
Well, first it was on the door of the OP room, and then it was on my desk when we moved to the cubicles. And I remember asking you shortly after you came in. It's like, is it awkward if I have your art printed out up in my cube because I think it's awesome? And you're like, no. And I'm like, I don't know if that was a no or not. She probably thinks I'm so weird now. Oh God, I'm gonna go hide in a corner.
If you're an artist, then people have your art. It was like when Wayne was in. Would someone say, "Is it awkward that we have a bunch of your art on the wall with the sign that says "Do not photograph"?
Because it was more like a, "Hey, this is this drawing that I did," and is a part of my submission. But yeah,
fair enough.
But there's But we have a great way for people to take a look at what Eleanor's art looks like. So you worked on a game called Short Order Heroes. You want to tell us about Short Order Heroes while we pop some links in for people to check it out?
Link it on the chat, and should we link also the drive-through?
So the first link, Calico Games, is for the base game. And if you were interested in expansions, we have the drive-through RPG page.
Oh, I see. It's the page that has all the expansions.
The page that has all the expansions, yes.
Aha.
Links in. All right. Sorry, Eleanor.
And Eleanor did all the art for this, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Cards for days. Cards for months. Cards for years.
Cards against your humanity.
I like to call it the best RPG product that nobody knows about. Or possibly the easiest RPG ever, although I cannot prove that and basically just making it. So you have a deck of cards that have illustrations and words on them, as well as a number from 1 to 6 usually. Here's where my terrible webcam screws this little display over. But yeah, you can see that I've got this card. Noble, loyal. My webcam is displaying them backwards, but I'll just assume.
Yeah, that's sort of sometimes webcams do that.
So the very bottom of your screen there, Eleanor, is covered by, where your fingers are, is covered by your nameplate. So if you want people to see what's in the bottom of the card, you'll need to move it up a bit.
Oh.
There you can see Loyal.
Okay.
Or the backwards version of Loyal.
Yes! Backwards Loyal!
Noble Loyal, it's like a paladin, like you said is your favorite.
Oh, yeah!
So, since I don't usually play games with this little card deck, since nobody knows about it and thus nobody will play it with me, what I usually use it for is making NPCs very quickly. I had mentioned to Linda before, actually, that in the Lost Omens character guide, all those little NPC bios that we put in the NPC gallery, the little personalities that a GM could just grab and use on the fly. Obviously, I'm sure some people thought I'd just come up with that out of my amazing brain, but on, in the afternoon on a Friday when we've been working on this book for the last couple of weeks, not quite as much brain power. So I actually used these cards instead. I drew 3 of them and came up either looking at, what do we know? It's a firebrand. This is their stat block. And this is, the 3 cards that I drew, and came up with a little personality based on that. For example, sometimes you just like shuffle through and you're like, oh, thanks, that's very helpful card deck. Like getting dashing on the lower level firebrand. It's like, a dashing firebrand.
Ooh.
I feel inspired. Thank you, card deck.
Great. Or you draw has octopus on boots for the venture captain. You're like, I already knew that. Also, this card is oddly specific.
That's not an adjective. But so
octopus
booted.
The
higher level firebrand, that sort of looks like a pirate captain. I think I drew spectral because I have some really weird genre packs also stuffed in this deck. And I was like, oh, so obviously a ghost pirate, right? But she's not a ghost. I can't make her a ghost. Her stats are right there, and it says that she's a human being with living tissue and lungs and stuff. So that's where the whole, thrown overboard, and I think I also drew vengeful, mutinied by her crew, presumed to be dead, and, people whisper her name now, thinking that she came back from the grave to take revenge, and that she might be a revenant, but she's actually not. She just sort of improbably survived.
And she could just wear a ghostly disguise, and then she would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for those meddling kids.
Yeah, she could just dump some flour on herself.
Yep.
And,
I'm a scary ghost.
Yeah, sort of the Muppet Treasure Island thing. But yeah, if you want, you can also use it as a game though, and you do that by doing the same thing. You draw 3 cards. So we'll say that somebody's character here is voracious.
We'll say it's Linda's
geeky.
Character. Voracious.
Okay,
voracious, evil.
Geeky.
Oh, geeky. Voracious and geeky.
And cowardly.
All right, Linda, you are voracious, geeky, and cowardly.
And so what you do is, when you go through the game, whenever you want to accomplish something that would require a roll, like we do in normal RPGs, you draw another card out of this deck, and if it's above a 4, you succeed. If it's below the 4, you fail. But if you have anything in your traits that would help you doing something, you get a +1 to the quote-unquote roll. And if you've got a trait that would hinder you, you get a -1 to the quote-unquote roll.
What if it's exactly a 4?
You succeed.
Okay.
4 or above, you succeed.
4 or above, okay.
Below 4, yeah. So say if you're trying to run away really fast, you're cowardly, so that might help you out. But if you want to try and hit someone with a wrench, that would be a penalty to you. So and then the word on the card that you draw as your roll, quote unquote again, explains how your action succeeded or failed. So Mark, tell Linda to do some action in the game.
All right, Linda, your cowardly voracious geek is running away from a library after you tried to eat one of the books and the librarian admonished you with the ruler.
You just have to make everything complicated, don't you?
Well, no, I was trying to tie in your all three of your things. You were geeky in a library, and then you were hungry, and then you were cowardly. Okay, so you're running away from a librarian with a ruler.
So we draw a card.
Okay, what do we get?
You get polite.
Okay.
Which is, it starts with a 3 because, so you would theoretically fail, but because you're cowardly, that might help you run away faster.
So yeah, I picked one that would help you so that you would have a higher chance of succeeding.
So would that mean that
So you like start running through the library, and the librarian doesn't want to make a lot of noise, and so you get away.
Or you were very polite to the librarian, so it helped you get away, or something like that.
Well, I think the librarian not making a lot of noise may be a representation of the librarian being polite to
Oh yeah,
folks.
I could see that. That's right.
Yeah, so that's sort of the basic. Yeah, that's sort of the basic mechanic. There's a few like alternate rules you can do to just make it more or less complicated.
So it's either 1/2, 2/3, or 1/3 chance, depending on whether or not your character would be good at that thing. What if your actual card comes up again, like cowardly or voracious?
Oh no, you keep them out of your deck.
Oh, interesting.
So out of the deck.
Depending on the size of the deck, that could mean that chances of succeeding are higher or lower if people have a lot of 6s in their traits or a lot of 1s.
Yeah. The math sort of thing. And we also have these expansions where you can draw card motives. So for example, I have, let's see, like motives for your characters. So you could have ambition or aversion, which I drew this reference and nobody gets it, but here it is.
What is it? What did that say on the bottom?
Aversion.
Aversion.
Aversion. So you could also, if you're making NPCs, just draw out, okay, so I've got this voracious nerd who is very cowardly, but what's their motive? And I could
ambition or oh no, what's the new one?
Faith.
Faith. So it's her devotion to Urgathoa, the goddess of gluttony.
Yeah, and we've also got these relationship cards that if you would just want to get like really into the
all right, what's Linda's voracious character's relationship to my character?
Warlord, this is Short Order Heroes.
Yes, we've got some links. It's a game that Eleanor drew all the art. All right, what's...
So I drew one of these weird cards. If it has like the ellipsis after it, that means you draw another. Ooh. And this adjective, so you got reluctant.
Okay. So her relationship to my character is reluctant.
Reluctant hero sidekick.
All right. So that means you're a reluctant sidekick.
I'm probably the sidekick.
You're a reluctant sidekick to my character, and I have to pull you in, even though you're innately cowardly, by drawing upon your faith.
So, how did you decide?
To Urgathoa, yeah, it's like, come on. The Pallid Princess says live for your life and any amount of time after that. And if you just run away here, how would you be doing that?
So, how did you decide what to draw on each of these cards?
I just had to think about it for a while. Like there's a lot of these cards, and I don't think that it was possible for me to have any one concept. Sometimes I ask people for ideas. Sometimes I trolled the Google image search, just like searching for that word to see if I could get some kind of idea. Yeah, and if you really want to go like Paizo help to the absurd. There's an event stack in here too. So technically you and I, Mark, could like try and plot out an entire AP using this event stack.
Wow. We could use the events deck. It's like, okay, the next thing that happens in the AP is draw an event and let's see what happens next in the AP.
A desperate alliance.
A desperate alliance is formed. Maybe that's when Linda becomes my hero sidekick reluctantly.
Or maybe we ally with a giant squid creature.
Yeah, it could
be.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, I think it's really cool how the art really it kind of reminds me in some ways of tarot card art, and that it's evocative of the general idea, but it also has a lot more to say than that.
Mm-hmm. So, Eleanor, you were saying you're having trouble finding someone to play it, but I have the perfect idea. You should run this as one of your events next PaizoCon. Because at that point...
I may.
Yeah, you could... Mm-hmm. People will be like, I get to play a game with Eleanor Ferron, and it's something I've never heard of. This sounds awesome. Let's sign up for it in the lottery. So, you will get the people to play it that you're looking for. Numbat from the chat says yes, ! To the idea of running it at PaizoCon.
Well, I like the idea mostly because it requires zero preparation.
Yeah, I was thinking of that too, as someone who has struggled with the amount of preparation I have to do for the PaizoCon games I run.
Mm-hmm. Plus, I mean, it's really fascinating to see. I guess thinking about my perspective as a fan, and getting to see someone else who is a master improviser weaving their craft, and I think too the way you've described using this deck, it really is a great primer on how to use randomized elements to inspire without treating them as a straitjacket.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely think it really shines as an RPG accessory, just because any one of us, even if we don't want to run this game, any one of us could be like, well, I need an NPC really fast. I need some kind of unique monster. It's like, oh, I'm gonna draw out this thing as I've got a mutant.
There you go.
And any one of us.
It's a three-eyed kitty with tentacles.
Yeah, and any one of us can like grab those, or even just like, you know, I don't know what to make this person look like. I'm going to, oh geez. I'm gonna make them look pretty awful, apparently. But maybe if I find a more normal card, you know, so I'm going to, you know, maybe I'll have a lady with magician lady with a snake on this thing.
I just love randomization tools like that. List random tables, other things. As a GM, I find restrictions breed creativity. So if I randomly roll something as a seed, it can help me, especially when I am like, I'm out of the initial idea, but I'm always able to build onto it. So I definitely like that. And I feel like the rules for this game seem like they're pretty simple to use, but like you could expand on it and even have like a difficulty system where you try to describe what a difficulty 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 thing is, where you like a 1 is something that anybody could do pretty much all the time unless they're really bad at it. A 2 is something that just about your average person could usually do it, and you could like describe it instead of just having everything be a 4, and have if you had a GM, you could have them like select the difficulty of the thing the person's trying to do, so you could easily like expand it from the base mechanic where you don't even need a GM and you just draw the card to like use it as a resolution system for something more in depth too.
Yeah, I've played around with having, so like whenever they encounter an obstacle, I draw a card and the difficulty, like the number on that card that I drew represents the obstacle, as well as the words. So, you know, maybe you have a really depressed wall somehow. But it's got like a sad face graffitied all over
or it's a Norikabe and it's very sad.
Yeah, or something like that. I've played around with having multiple cards for like a really complicated obstacle, or like the grand boss might have 6 cards and you have to defeat all of them.
Ooh, that's cool.
I've played around with having it so that whenever you use one of your cards to give you a bonus, you have to sort of tap it, and you can't get that bonus back until you've had one of your flaws affect you and give you like a negative to a roll. There's a lot of ways you can customize it.
That's cool. Or you could do another thing where if you use one of your cards, or even if you don't, and you fail against like something dangerous, you lose one of your traits. If you lose them all, if you lose them all, your character dies or retires, or somehow like you narratively come up with a way that having nothing left in your character ends you, probably by dying. But it could just be, well, you know what? I have no motivation anymore. I just retire.
Or maybe after certain events, you draw certain victories. You draw new cards that represent the direction of your character growth.
I could see that. too.
Any one of those things, and even just not using like any complications. I've seen people run some pretty like fun one shots with it. Like there was a one shot I was watching just as, being involved with this product, where it was like a sci-fi thing, and like this crew got into this like alien style situation where there was a hostile thing on the ship, and then something was shooting at them, and everybody was doing really great except for the one person who was trying to actually save the ship. It just sort of went around, and everyone drew all these great cards, and then the one that was trying to prevent them from being shot down like would draw ones and twos and fail everything. It was also the one where I got like the best quotes out of it, because the first one was just like somebody tried to do something and drew a card labeled expendable.
Oh no!
It was a red shirt.
It's like, expendable as a card? That's horrible.
Well,
and also,
what if you draw expendable for yourself?
Then you are expendable. But I think the best one was somebody like ran up to fight the monster and drew voracious and failed.
I'm too hungry.
No.
I bet I know what happened to me.
I think
now I believe I'm inside the monster.
It might be worse if they drew voracious and succeeded. It was like, I was just so hungry, I ate the monster.
Hey, so you take success however you get it. But yeah, that's my little project from before I came to Paizo, Short Order Heroes.
Awesome.
I saw one of the cards when I was looking things up that had like a cat and a dog on it. It was really cute.
Oh, the battle is joined?
The battle
is joined.
You may as well link the little picture from DriveThruRPG, because my webcam is crap and you won't be able to see it.
Alright, so we linked DriveThruRPG in general and Calico Games in particular. Wait, was there a Velociraptor that just had a top hat called Anachronistic?
Yes, there is a Velociraptor with a top hat called Anachronistic. Here's the
battle is joined.
Here's battle is joined.
It's a cat with an axe that's like about to attack a dog.
And then the Anachronistic Velociraptor.
He is definitely a fancy Velociraptor.
He's a Velociraptor with a top hat
yes, that's what I was saying.
In a teacup.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, check out Eleanor's awesome art.
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty, as we've talked about. There's plenty of ways that you can use this for inspiration for your games, to play it as a standalone game, or if you're a game designer, to be inspired to create new games based on
that's true.
The great potential
or
within it.
If you're a game developer, to be inspired to make stories.
Yep.
Yeah, Lord Warlord says, looks beautiful too. I guess that's what's most important here, because Eleanor drew all of the art. But I take it that the design for like the game portion of it was someone else, or did you do everything in this game?
Oh no, the design of the game, I believe the website should list Jesse Butler on there. That was him, and I believe his brother-in-law Adam Gojil. I don't know how to pronounce his brother-in-law's name, but...
Hooray for names you only ever see when they are typed out. Re-popping in the Calico Games link, because I know that CalicoGames.com, because I know that some more people joined after we started talking about this.
That's right.
And we can go ahead and pop a link below on the YouTube video as well.
Yep.
And put it in the Discord. All the places.
Yeah, somebody else did the really nice borders on these two, but I did all of the art pictures.
Makes sense.
Speaking of which, it's time for experience points.
Yes, and Sheppy T.S. Rodriguez says, Eleanor, your style is so great, I love it. About the art on the cards. And if I remember correctly, Sheppy draws pictures too. Am I getting this wrong, or Sheppy, were you the one who drew that picture of Amanda's shark goblin after after the 3-action game night? Yes, I thought so. So Eleanor, it wasn't just some person on our community, it was someone who drew an amazing picture of the goblin who is really excited about your style.
Yeah, thank you very much. That goblin shark picture is beyond incredible.
And the ones for Roll for Combat as well. Oh, did you do Linda's and mine for Roll for Combat, Sheppy? Or the ones for their, like, bigger Plague Stone thing? Oh, yes. Well, your pictures for our characters for Roll for Combat are amazing.
Oh, did you draw, like, the...
Show the shirt again, Linda. We showed it already.
Maybe in the wash, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Wait, no.
But you didn't wear it.
No, I still have it over here. Hold on.
Okay. We don't have mine in yet. It's coming in a separate shipment.
Here. Hold
this up here it is. I'm going to hold it up.
Headphones back on.
This is Sheppy's picture of Linda's Leshy character, who is a Muali J elf. Am I holding it up too high?
No, you're good.
No, it's good. So, there you go. I'm sure Sheppy has seen it a ton of times, but yes. I wanted to show it again anyway.
I love it.
Awesome. So let's see. Jib thinks it's awesome too. So let's see. What other things should we talk about with Eleanor? Linda, you're the one who has the list. I actually only knew about this game.
So what kinds of so you haven't been doing as much of the art projects recently, since you've been more into the writing aspect. Is that correct?
Yeah. So
what are some other freelance projects that you did since the Occult Bestiary that you're excited about? Or are there things
since the Occult Bestiary? That's
everything.
Quite a lot of.
I know, but we talked about the Occult. We talked about the Occult Bestiary, and that's how you got started. But do you have like some favorite things you've worked on?
I feel like the most impactful ones would be the scenarios and the APs, because people keep up with playing those. I mean, I've done some. I mean, there was like the Toxin Codexer was popular, but now Eric Mona has come to everyone's house and burned all of their Pathfinder 1 books, so it feels irrelevant. But the adventures, people talk about those a lot more. At least when you can find people who have played them.
I feel that
I think it took a while for everyone to do some of these.
I think, to me, I feel that the intellectual property element that Eleanor has introduced that is the most widespreadly known, even if they don't know it was from Eleanor, is probably Star Sugar Heart Love.
Yep.
And Strawberry Machine Cake. And all
my fictional band that is more popular than I am.
Well, sometimes your creations take on a life of their own.
I sometimes feel like I need to start a band just so I can say my fictional band is more popular than my real band. But I guess I can probably say that my fictional band is more popular than James Sutter's band.
Yeah, I was about to say you could join James Sutter's band, and then you could say that. Also, Ular Warlord says in all caps after we said Strawberry Machine Cake, "That was you!" With 9 question marks, and then nice!
Yeah, that sort of had a Frankenstein's monster feel to it for a bit. Especially because it was like a paragraph in the adventure I wrote.
Mm-hmm. And then it's just like...
and then it expanded to me having to make up all 4 band members and what instruments they play and what they look like. I think Liz Liddell had to write like a bunch of their track names for their album and all sorts of things like that.
That's awesome.
So, so you do like listening to that kind of music in real life? Like,
yeah.
Was that part of the inspiration for the band?
Yeah, I was just... I like a lot of different music, but I was trying to think of Ziggy, and when I was given... this was where I had to write the personalities of all of the faction leaders, and I wasn't given a whole lot beyond their, like, a bit of their backstory and, you know, their alignment, and I have the, you know, there's this lawful good Sheeran, but when I had read the Sheeran entry, it wasn't like, oh, we're rough and tough and tumble. It was just sort of like, we like making friends and being happy and learning about things.
Did you draw your cards again for that, or?
No. Yeah, I think I might have seen the art for them. I'm not 100% sure. Actually, now that I think about it, I probably didn't. But yeah, and so, you know, this is the first Sheeran you're ever going to meet, most likely. And so I mean, Ziggy had better represent what Sheerans are. And so I wanted, like, the most happy, peppy, silly little bug that still, you know, was just like, but I also like to play with flamethrowers because fire is cool. And so that's, I picked, like, the most bubbly music I happened to be a fan of, which was kind of sugar kawaii J-pop. And it kind of exploded from there.
Awesome.
So yeah, I mean, I don't think that a lot of people knew beforehand about the role that you had in shaping really who the faction leaders are in Starfinder Society.
Yeah, you'll have to, I guess you can ask Thirsty about that, but yeah, I was sort of given the faction they belong to and their backstory, and not all that too much on their personality, and so yeah, I got to shape a lot of how they were going forward. Although, like, some of them got a little more extreme, like Fitch was running a daycare on the ship while it was being repaired, and then Thirsty's like, yeah, but let's take all of these, you know, unminded children into a war zone. I'm like, that was not in my original concept, but okay, that's where we're going.
I mean,
if you thought Auntie Baldwin was bad with the orphans.
Oh my god. You didn't expect Starver Machine Cake to explode the way it did either, but when, you know, sometimes people, one of the things that Thirsty does is when people latch onto a concept, he rolls with it, and he rolls with it, and rolls with it, so.
Well, apparently he also rolled with child endangerment, so.
Hooray! Let's move on from child endangerment to a different topic. So, in yesterday's sort of review of the Lost Omens character guide, No Direction was saying that they felt like just reading some of the different topics in the Lost Omens character guide felt like that they were, like, learning more about a little bit about sociology and other cultures that they could apply even to their lives in the real world that they had never thought about before reading that book. Eleanor, was it sort of your intention to try to introduce elements that could help people sort of understand other cultures in a different way in Lost Omens Characters Guide?
I saw that review and I'm eternally wondering what they were talking about.
Yeah, I sort of was too. That's why I asked you.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure exactly what they were referring to. Definitely I wanted these cultures... I mean, the fact that they say that, it means that I've done a good job, I feel, so hooray. I definitely wanted these cultures to feel very vibrant, especially because a lot of them we already had, but we've been just sort of neglecting for the entirety of the Pathfinder First Edition. And so I wanted to build these out so they weren't just 2 lines that we kept copy pasting over and over whenever we brought this group out.
Yes, caught in the, this always has only 2 lines. Let's lightly paraphrase these same 2 lines across 7 different books. Then when people go later to research it, they'll realize that it's just those 2 lines copy pasted over 7 different books.
I'm pretty sure we saw the alliance about the Mbeki and Tilaru dwarves live in the Mwangi Expanse, and they like dragons.
Yep.
A whole lot, and that's what we've got.
And then it's like, did you know in the Mwangi Expanse there are dwarves?
And you know what? After being the design lead on Lost Almond's character guide, I now know that the Mbeki dwarves are dwarves that live in the Mwangi Expanse, and they love dragons. And also, they sometimes have a heritage where they do, like, energy attacks, and they say it's from their dragons.
Yep. There are definitely areas where it's like, well, we can just keep expanding there. But, yeah, I mean, a lot of the credit for that just goes to the freelancers who wrote it, who obviously added a lot of that sort of stuff into there. But I'm glad to get people thinking and, sort of, adding that extra layer of thought to their characters. And also, if you're learning real world stuff from RPGs, then great. I'm not wasting both your time and mine with frivolous entertainment. You're actually maybe improving yourself with them.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool, but was also mystified by it, so I thought it would be a good interview question.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know either. I'd love to ask them what they meant.
Maybe we can get Louise to ask them.
I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for RPGs and their power to inspire people to think from a different perspective and really put themselves into the shoes of people who are in different circumstances.
That's true.
I mean, that's the ideal.
It's a role play.
Sometimes you look at the community and you're like, I'm wasting my life. But we'll be positive on this.
I think that you sometimes see that. So sometimes the people who are not always being the best citizens get more attention, because when you see that post or whatever, and you're like, oh gosh, somebody's going to have to handle that situation. But then if you look at things over the perspective of, how many community members are sort of good citizens of our community and super fun people to play with, and how many of them are actually the ones that are maybe not so much that way. Like the good apples far outweigh the bad in my experience, for sure.
I find that it's hard to remember this sometimes when the criticism is coming on thick, but people are motivated to tell you about criticism because they're not happy and they want you to know. If people like things, then they're just gonna be complacent and like it, and there's much less motivation to come on and tell you about how much they like it, and they feel socially awkward, like maybe they're geeking out or just sort of, just saying how good it is, and that they might be fanboying or fangirling too much, and then that social awkwardness pushes them even more into not doing it, even if they were motivated enough to. So
yeah, I know that's sort of a thing where even really famous published authors have mentioned that they don't get a lot of compliments because people, I guess, feel awkward about doing that, or feel like this is a really famous author, or surely they get deluged with fans all the time. And when you talk to them, it's no, we almost never hear anything nice about our work. Maybe some nice reviews that we feel happy about, but not so often people telling you directly. So I guess, to the people watching now, if you have recently read something and really appreciated it, go ahead and reach out. I mean, it's not as common as you think it might be, and it can really uplift people who don't get it, like no matter how famous they become.
That's true.
A lot of authors don't get this kind of validation.
I would say that, like, maybe once a month we get an email sent out to everyone at the office about a nice note or something like that is sent.
Yeah,
and if anyone gets one, they send it to all hands, everyone from customer service to the warehouse to the editorial team, because it's like, we got a nice message. So yeah, it's definitely true. And Sheppy says, the effort gets noticed, we're thankful. Sheppy loves the New Dwarves and the way Lost Omens characters got dealt with it, but you don't want to feel like a stalker or a creep or too fanboy to the Paizo crew. It's just like, it's just like I was saying before.
Mm-hmm.
And X Game Monster X... Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Eleanor.
I mean, read the chat since I can't see it.
Oh, X Game Monster X said they've really enjoyed what they've read of the character guide, and they've made it to Knights of Last Wall so far, even though it only came out, was it yesterday? I think so. And
it was yesterday. It feels longer though because a lot of subscribers got it early.
That's true.
Yeah, it was only yesterday.
Roll for Comment says everyone is awesome. I say it all the time on my entire podcast dedicated to everyone being awesome.
Yay.
Elftro said everyone at Paizo sounds like awesome people. And Digital Caveman said the Taralu art in Lost Zombie Character Guide is some of the coolest fantasy art I've seen in a long time. Great book.
I really like how the art in the character guide turned out.
It was so cool. I really like it. I don't know. I feel like the art team has always been great, but they've sort of stepped up their game somehow for the new edition, and it looks even better than it did before. I'm also excited about some of the Game Mastery Guide pictures that we have, some of which we will show you tomorrow on the Paizo Friday. Just World Guide also had amazing art,
mm-hmm.
So
I mean, that cover really though for Gods and Magic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a really great idea on Sarah Robinson's part, and just that little triptych and the Starstone, which we've never seen before.
Right, that was just amazing.
And we had to have meetings about, well, do we know what the Starstone looks like? It's like, well, no, because the only 3 people have seen it, or 4 people have seen it and come out alive to our knowledge, and so we never described it. I was like, oh well, I think we're gonna have to figure it out now. And it was just this amazing cover.
Mm-hmm.
It's been really fascinating with the whole transition into 2nd edition, realizing how many things that were supposedly central that we just didn't define. Like working on this first year of Pathfinder Society, with the theme of the first year being to get back into some of the, so what does it mean to be a Pathfinder, and realizing how much of the early history of the Pathfinder Society we're like, oh yeah, like that was kind of mentioned in some of the first books, but then we just didn't get back to it. I guess we should probably like explore some of that with our first year here, huh?
It's just an amazing opportunity for the first year, because that's stuff that like everybody wants to know about, and it makes sense that the society wants to find out about it too.
Gods and Magic is going to be awesome, and when you get it and you see how much content there is to support a absolutely ridiculous number of deities, you know who to thank.
Yeah.
Eleanor.
I think it's been mentioned before that, like, Eleanor's Sisyphean rock that she had to push up the hill and then back down was that giant table of deities in the back, so.
That god expletive table.
Or just take out the expletive. It's a god table, also.
Yes, but that was my nickname. You can all you fans out there now know that I call it the goddamn table.
Asmodeus approves. He is the only important person on the table.
He's not even on the table. He can get out of there.
Oh, it's only the table for other deities. Okay. Then, in that case, Dispater and all of the other archdukes are the only important ones.
Yeah, we do have the other rulers of hell on there. So. But
Digital Caveman says that the art and the Lost Omens guides are really inspiring them as someone who didn't even play PF1. Just the Lost Omens guys are drawing them into the game and the setting.
Hidden Twig says, "New Pantheon unlocked. Goddamn table."
That's right.
You have to worship everybody. Good luck with it. Good luck with all of those.
Follow all the tenets and anathema.
Go ahead and frickin' lock it. But yeah, I'm really happy with a lot of the art that came out, especially because that was my goal going in. Is what am I looking at? Like, especially in places that we talk up a lot and then don't necessarily ever go there. Like, I was going around asking people, well, what does next look like? I don't know what that country has. What am I looking at if I go there? It really felt unapproachable. And I think people have seen that illustration of Quantium now. It's the really red and blue and white palace, and it's just beautiful. And it feels like now that I've seen that, I might go there. I mean, I might not like going there because Nex is a horrible country ruled by crazy wizards, but yeah, it really, I feel like, opened up the setting a little more to see these places we talk about.
Yeah, for sure.
Ular Warlar is asking the hard-hitting questions. Is there a deity of tables?
Since Alceta is the deity of doors. Also, if there is, their sacred artifact is the Desk of Many Things, which Peyton still wants us to put into some product after the typo.
I feel like if I had the chart on hand, I could probably pick you out somebody that would be the deity of tables. There might be more than one candidate. We might have to have a table off. You might have to roll on the table to get which deity of the table you get.
Well, Hidden Twig was going to say the Desk of Many Things thing, but I beat him to it.
Oh, and Chevy said, "Or the Eye of Robes." Do you put the Eye of Robes on top of the Desk of Many Things to iron it?
Maybe. I'm sure there is a god of tables just because there's so many. The way I put it is there's going to be an Imperial Lord somewhere who is exactly whatever the thing is that you're talking about. I can't guarantee you.
Tables, I feel like, would probably be a monitor.
It may be.
Yeah, well, it also depends on what type of tables. If they're like piece of wood that has 4 legs tables, or tables like, tables like the ones that are in the books and things like that. Because, yeah, I totally agree with you on monitor.
I think they should be a primeval inevitable. It's just that we have so many Imperial Lords compared to every other category of thing, except maybe Demon Lord.
Definitely on the chart. Because everybody wants to play their favorite Imperial Lord. It's like, well, what are we going to get yelled at if we leave off the chart? And the Imperial Lords just sort of dominated.
I just mean in Golarion, other than Demon Lords, or just in the setting, if you look for the category, and because it's 3 alignments worth, right? The other categories are just 1 plane, and even just a subset of a plane. For demons are not the only things on the Abyss. But Imperial Lords are like all the good ones. So you wind up with so many of them.
Category.
Yeah, but yeah, if you like the art, we've got pictures of 2 Imperial Lords we never illustrated before in Gods and Magic, so keep an eye out for those.
You gotta watch to see which 2 they are, because I don't even remember which 2 they are.
Mark cannot spoil you.
And I wasn't going to anyway, but even if I did...
It came out really amazing.
Sweet.
That's right. Awesome.
So you and Luis pretty much, and I know Luis talked about this when he was on here, that you 2 are pretty much the dream team that work together on all of these projects.
Sometimes known as Eloise.
Yep, basically the same person. We both have long hair and favor blue and maroon clothing. He tends a little more towards salmon than I prefer.
In terms of color or eating salmon, or both?
I don't know his opinion on eating salmon. He has this like salmon pants that he wears a lot.
Yeah.
Not my color, I don't think.
So that's very important for all of you Eloise people.
Eloise fans. Now you know more about Louise's
for you to
wardrobe.
differentiate us.
Yes, that's how you can tell. If you see salmon pants, it's Louise. If you don't,
in disguise.
Or Eleanor in disguise, particularly trying to trick you.
It's also important that Eleanor and Amanda and I are all different people.
Oh,
that's right. Here's how
we
you
even have different lengths of hair right now. And
yeah, I know.
Here's the quick guide. The quick guide is if she's not wearing any glasses, then it's probably Amanda.
No, seriously, the number of times that I've been called Amanda or Eleanor is kind of hilarious in a sad way. It's like, just because... I know, it's like, just because we're both women and we have a similar hair color does not mean we're the same person.
It's not even the same hair length.
I know, right? Or the texture or whatever. It's like, what is it? God tables, damn it, we're not the same person.
There you go. Brian suggests the pants of salmon as a magic item. I mean, it could be. Salmon actually...
You just always have a salmon in your pocket? Or
I mean, salmon are like a very important element in Celtic mythology. Like, the salmon of knowledge was like a big thing. And there's also Cahulan's ultimate move that he learned from the Shadow Amazons was the salmon leap attack. So, like... Salmon pants could be related to either of those two things.
Yeah. You could either leap or just be a smarty pants.
That's right. Authoress Dale suggests it's an alternate Apex item for wisdom. Do we think that's Luis's ability score that he would have an Apex item for? Because the other day there was a discussion among the freelancers that Luis might be Lozapuff, as in Hufflepuff.
Lozapuff?
Yes.
Yes.
Les, it just happened among some freelancers, and so would that make you Claw, though?
I probably not. I've always assumed that I was probably a Hufflepuff because nobody pays any attention or likes them.
Aww.
Well, if you're saying you're the opposite of a paladin, you could be Slytherin too.
She's not Slytherin.
I'm not smart enough to be a Slytherin.
But
it's too bad that I do really like snakes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who other than a Slytherin would literally leave an adorable white snake on my desk? Which Eleanor did.
Slytherin's just snake defamation, really. Like, the entire Harry Potter series is a bunch of snake defamation.
But that little white snake is so cute. It's like this long, but half of its body is its head, and it's got like this little tiny tongue, and it's like it's like a little plushie. I could actually,
not that my copyright can, but I've got a copy of that snake. Give me a second, I'll be back with it.
Well, sympathetic magic. She's using it to spy on the snake that's in my desk. White Snake.
I haven't heard of the band White Snake.
I think I've heard the name before, but I know nothing else.
Yeah, like, so, see, is this your Dark Lord? Like, is this your Dark Lord?
I mean, I like snakes. I think they're cute. We had a lot of snakes growing up as pets.
Yeah, I did too. I had a little corn snake for a while.
Oh yeah, we had some of those. A few of the snakes died of Stargazer's disease, which is a snake disease. But we had a Pueblo milk snake who survived until my parents' entire house burned down, and that took away the milk snake.
But that is the exact same plushie that Mark has on his desk at work. And sometimes when I walk by Mark's desk, I pick it up and I use it to boop his snoot,
because snakes are known to boop people's snoot.
They boop
their snoot in your business.
Like that meme. That
the SNEK.
SNEK, yes,
meme.
exactly. Yeah.
Snake boop. Brian asks, your parents' house burnt down. Yeah, they were at Sundance Film Festival. It was not this year. It was a while back. And they were fine because they were at that festival. But, yeah, just the whole place burnt down. It was pretty bad. That was where, like, all like, a lot of memories were there. And, like, all the old stuff from me and my brothers and things like that. But it was really nice because at least they, like, the community, because they do, like, coaching for after-school activities just to volunteer to help out at the school. So, like, some community member who just, like, had another house over there for some reason was like, oh, you can stay there, and there's a lot of support.
And they're like, would you like to stay at our second house for free?
And my parents were like, why don't you take the money, because the insurance is paying a huge amount, which the insurance was paying a huge amount, so.
Yeah, because they were, like, not going to take any money at all, and then they're like, okay, fine, we'll take the insurance money. But we're not taking anything else from you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a while back. It was rough, especially because there was this point in time where, for whatever reason, like, the main question that we were getting from development was that James Jacobs was like, but what check would you use in Doomsday Dawn, this is in part 4, it's like, to figure out that this area had been, like, burned down by a red dragon. And Jason kept asking about it. He's like, if the whole thing was burned down, and it was this burned out husk, and we were making a check to figure out that it was a red dragon, and eventually, after they said burned out enough times, I was like, can we use a different example for right now?
Yeah.
But anyway.
I have some unusual things though, because I don't usually expect, oh, by the way, apparently somebody I knew was murdered by cyanide either.
That's
like,
true.
Oops.
That was at my high school.
Mm-hmm. This would be really getting into squirrel territory. So
yeah, I feel
if
like
you want to pick up that conversation, we can chat about it on Discord.
Yeah, we can chat about that on Discord.
Invite.gg/arcanemerc.
Yeah,
we
that's
talk
right.
about a lot of things. Most of them are super cheerful and not random depressing
not
stuff.
anything depressing most of the time.
We also
And
have-
Eleanor, if you want to join the Discord, we will give you the special golem category with a dark blue name that we give
We have
to
things
all the Paizo golems.
we have things like a channel for leshies, and a channel for bats, and a channel for other cute things, and a channel for second edition, and the shows you like to watch, and the podcasts you like to, and a channel for first edition, and a channel for Starfinder, and oh god, so many channels.
Lots of channels.
Including the utterly general and the utterly neutral
and general channel.
chat.
That's correct.
Yep.
It's completely neutral in every way.
We have lots of channels, and you can come there and chat with us. At least one of us is going to be on there basically every day saying hi. So
that's right.
It's a fun place. We also post the results of our workshop episodes on there too.
Oh boy.
So did you wind up making a bread thief, Mark?
So yes, they built the name of my character, which they also named, is Absaladin. He is from Absalom, but is Kalashite in ethnicity. And he is a singing bread thief, bard, who sings about how he's staying ahead of the guards from Absalom.
Jeez.
As he
one jump ahead of the guards.
Yes, he is literally, he has acrobatics, so he can be one jump ahead of the bread line. And yes,
ahead of the sword.
Yes.
Does he have the monkey?
He has an unseen servant. The only thing he doesn't have is the monkey.
So he has an unseen servant that he calls Abu.
No, the unseen servant is the genie.
Oh, right, the unseen servant is the genie, and then he was going to take gnome.
I could take adopted by gnomes.
Adopted by gnomes at a higher level
I could get
to get Abu. That's right. That's what we did.
Also, I wound up in the Radiant Oath, but if I had been in the Verdant Wheel, I could have gotten a Leshy familiar, although not a.
You could have had a Leshy and given
not a
it
monkey.
a Fez.
There you go. So. Yes, they basically gave me Aladdin, whereas Linda's character is like
Tofesh Zelajar.
He's like a gnome who
I remember it now.
Who kind of worships this Janiform concept between a Chakek and Grandmother Spider, and like has a little mantis familiar named Mantis Hime who like wears a top hat and monocle.
Oh Jesus. That's too cute.
When Twitch makes your character.
And the character is chaotic neutral, but, like, theoretically they say they worship a Chekak as the main thing, but then later we decided maybe that there's some grandmother spider in there, and that's why there's all this trolling. So, yes. We also created a deity named Cairden Gordland, who is like a great pumpkin-style deity, and a monster called a Sharkshasa.
Yep. I mean, most things that this channel creates are based on some meme or another. Sharkshasa being based on one of our
earlier episodes.
Where we were that was like one of our plotting ones where people were talking about like, oh, maybe it's sharks or maybe it's Rakshasas.
We were talking about like how sometimes your players won't pick up your hints. So even if you were like, the innkeeper's hand is backwards, and he says, you'll never find out that I'm really a Rakshasa. And then you go outside and there's a sign that says, beware of Rakshasas in the town. And then the players are like, I think that the evil masterminds who were manipulating this entire village is sharks. And that's how it started.
I've had these encounters.
And it's like, but you're in a landlocked town, and there's this sign. It's like, no, it's sharks.
Land sharks.
Yes, indeed.
And that's how Sharkshasas were born, I'm pretty sure.
Yep. And since
I mean,
then,
they've got the heads of predators that you shouldn't, but you could have a Rakshasa with a shark head.
So
yeah, you could have a Rakshasa.
You have more of an artistic bent than I do, Eleanor. How would you recommend representing the concept of a Sharkshasa? Assuming that you could only do so in 28 to 28 pixels.
But hold on, I'll tell you a little bit more about Sharkshasas. They are level 8, whereas the Raja is level 10. They are aquatic, and they hang out with sea devils, and their alternate form is that they turn into aquatic creatures and infiltrate them. But they mostly use intimidation, and they have no skill at diplomacy, because at heart they're sharks.
Because at heart these are terrible Rakshasas. Should not be a thing. You could just... You probably need to go back to away from the D&D Rakshasa, which have the animal heads, and go back to just the horrible, scary mask Rakshasa from India and that sort of thing. Maybe you could have, instead of a crown of horns, you have a crown of fins. But also, do not. This is a terrible monster.
This monster, exists and is fully statted out, though. All it needs is a piece of art. And Dark Swordman has been thinking about starting to do the art, but got stuck on how to handle it.
And I, against my better judgment, want to create a Sharkshasa emoji.
Oh boy.
I mean, you look up shark or Rakshasas from India as opposed to this sort of D&D thing. There's the ones with a million heads, so maybe there's a billion. Instead of the conical hats or crowns or whatever, you could have fins, or some of them have these frills and ears on their head that you could replace with fins. Or you could make a different monster, because this is terrible.
Elf Tarot is still trying to pitch you this monster being cool. Points out that it has an ability, an aura, that makes creatures that are frightened in it bleed, which it can then sense with its keen blood scent.
That is really cool on a monster that is not a shark.
We went all out with people. We made it a legit, pretty balanced 8th level monster. And you've now made Elftro sad. Because you don't like Sharkshasa. It's okay, Elftro. I have already committed to making an emoji for Sharkshasa. I will figure it out. Well, Hidden Choice says we just need to rename it apparently. And Aguna says Eleanor, destroyer of hopes and dreams. Brian says that this interview has gotten hostile. But anyway, yeah.
You should have set me up as a monster to just smush your dreams.
Well, I mean, if you were a Sharkshasa, you wouldn't call yourself a Sharkshasa. Like, I feel like that's the kind of thing that humans call Sharkshasas, and then they get, like, really pissed that they're called that.
Why do you kill random humans? Because you call me that stupid name.
Altro says you're still cool. Unfortunate Pumpkin says Sharkshasa is best name, though. I feel like maybe this is something where, like, the scholars and the Sharkshasas have something else that they call them, but, like, everybody else is like, they're Sharkshasas. Stop being so pompous and pedantic. Aguna says, you don't stat up Eleanor. Eleanor stats up you.
By drawing cards. You don't want her to draw a card for you that says you're voracious and cowardly, because she will do it.
And Rocket Lettuce says, are we saying Eleanor is a Sharkshasa?
Why do you think she's so opposed to people finding out about them?
Yeah, Eleanor, this channel is kind of ridiculous. I love it, though. In fact, I love it because of... Like, if this channel weren't silly, I wouldn't have nearly as much fun with it.
They're gonna be sad when they found out that I'm a really bad swimmer.
That's just your cover story.
Mm-hmm.
That's your social identity. And your vigilante identity, which is also Sharkshasa, it's different.
We figured it out.
Yes, you can all stare at the water where I have drowned and be like, just wait for it. She'll show her true colors.
Eventually. You totally would have, like, teleported away or whatever.
And left behind a fake copy with, like, mislead.
Yep.
Drop dead.
Yeah, drop dead.
Mm-hmm.
Either of those two.
And now if you were a villain, Eleanor, you would totally be one of those with the escalating plans and things like that. You think you defeated them, and then they're like in another room with a scrying sensor being like hee. Because they totally didn't catch you. Now
I think you're giving me a bit too much credit as a villainous elf. I don't plot very well.
I don't know about that. I mean, you've already...
The chat has summarized this. Mark and Linda, Eleanor is all powerful and all great. Eleanor, guys, I think I just drowned. Mark and Linda, all powerful.
This is how religions start.
That's right.
So what you're saying is that you should add Eleanor to those goddamn tables, right?
There we go.
I am the god of the chart.
You are the god of the chart.
You're the god of the tables.
We figured it out. Eleanor is god of tables.
There we go.
And Dark Swordsman says that you're a better god than Razmir.
Ooh, shots fired against Jason. But yeah, I think that if there was a deity in Pathfinder and people didn't know the names of who worked on Pathfinder, it just said, oh yeah, this deity is Ferron, goddess of iron and tables. That if we put that in a list with some of the other Pathfinder deities and gave it to someone who didn't know enough lore to know all the Pathfinder ones already.
Did you say iron because Ferron sounds like Ferris?
Yes. And I just put those in, and I put those in there. I think that they would not all pick that Ferron, the goddess of iron and tables, was wrong. I didn't want to
be right, but I was right.
But I am going to have to tell you, Linda, that my name actually is Smith in French. Or blacksmith.
Oh. Yeah, that is what I picked it because it was Smith in French. Which I didn't know that it literally was what it came from. It was the same.
That is like actually much more reasonable and appropriate, and not just like Mark making random puns.
I mean, it's not a pun, except it is a pun, but it's also not. Marsifter, god of annoying puns. Zayas Palmer, god of leshies.
Pretty much.
All hail the Overleshy.
All hail the Overleshy.
I actually signed a blog over Leshy recently.
That's true. Her most recent blog just says Overleshy at the bottom.
Yep. Well, you know what? If the internet's going to give me a nickname and it's, like, flattering and appropriate, I have to add that extra bit on the end there, then sure, I'll embrace it.
It seems like something we should put in the game, like the Great Pumpkin.
Well, there sort of are Overleshies. The Green Man, which is also, there's a 10th level spell to turn into, are like these mythic leveled god deity granting spell, basically Leshies. Like, they have all of the things that Leshies have in PF1. Now, admittedly, during development of Bestiary 6, James did take the Leshy trait out. Or sorry, it wasn't a trait back then. The Leshy descriptor out that I had in there.
Yeah, because they didn't fit with the...
But they still have all the things Leshies have, and some people consider them to be the very first Leshies.
Leshies, though, they just look like somehow appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not as good as Leshies.
Dark Swordsman says just remove organized play lead developer and only have over Leshy as the title.
Jib2916 says, were Leshies a part of PF1? Oh, were they? Please check out the old episode Leshy Garden, available on YouTube, which is essentially an hour of me rambling about how cool Leshies are and everywhere they showed up in PF1.
And somehow avoiding letting, I think based on the timing, of somehow avoiding letting anybody know that Leshies were going to come out like super soon. Thanks to Luis and Eleanor, and some, as the blog said, random last-minute design team adding a name to the list.
Mm-hmm.
And Eltro says they were even playable in the Wilderness book, which Linda wrote them for that, too.
I have definitely written the majority of Leshy-themed content.
You've also written 100% of playable Leshy race/ancestries, assuming that Starfinder does not have one.
I feel like it's probably not necessarily going to get one, but I don't know.
But if you consider Raxolites...
But she wrote the Leshy XPs.
Yes, and she wrote the Raxolites, which are as close as you're going to get, probably. So.
Well, I was told specifically not to make them Leshies.
And so you didn't, but then the artist did.
And then the artist did, but that's not my fault. That's not my fault that they look like dandelions. I didn't describe them to look like Leshies.
Leshies initially appeared in, what, Bestiary 2 or 3?
3, I think. And then the ones I did were in 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the dandelion plant dudes are the Raxolites. Linda wrote those also.
Yep. But it was like, they need to not be Leshies, and they need to, like, instead be super technologically advanced. It's like, alright, cool. They won't be Leshies. And then the art's, like, totally a Leshy.
So, Eleanor, what's your favorite ancestry? We talked about Linda's Leshies for a while. And it can still be Leshies.
I have one. I mean, I enjoy the Leshies a lot. I don't know if I have a particularly favorite one. I usually just be the boring human person, because I feel like there ought to be one just to... Because nobody else wants to play a human, so it sort of feels like you need to have the token human in there.
So you've picked human for exactly the reason that John picks gnome, then? Because he feels like no one else is going to do it, so he picks gnome?
But I like gnomes, although I don't think I've ever played one.
Oh, wow. Linda, was your dwarf character your first one for Pathfinder 2nd Edition that you'd ever played in any edition of any role-playing game?
Yes, that was my first dwarf character, was my 2nd edition one.
I mean, I technically could almost remake my very first RPG character, which was an elf that had a flaming chainsaw sword.
Oh, well, we do have flaming and chainsaw as runes now.
Yeah, we do have flaming and chainsaw, but we don't have the short sword of swiftness, which was my favorite magic item ever. It was Sword of Swift.
Well, you could just have a very high level sword that has flaming, chainsaw, and speed as the 3 runes.
Yeah, but if it's speedy, it's swift.
That's true.
I need the sword to be sorta swift.
Oh, I see. Sorta swift.
Sorta swift.
Yeah.
Oh.
That was my favorite magic item, the short sword of sort of swiftness.
Oh, right. The short sword of sort of swiftness. Like the mini onions of Set, where they accidentally put the eon in it twice and it wound up being mini onions. So then they wrote up an actual write-up of it. If they're really evil onions, if you eat them, you become a chaotic evil worshiper of Set.
Typos are amazing. Especially when you take them way too far.
Yep.
Which, you know...
I have robes.
I have robes. That wasn't even a typo, it was just a... speecho.
Verbal.
What
do you call it?
A verbal typo.
Verbal typo.
That's right. Whereas the desk of many things is a legit typo.
Mm-hmm. Didn't Owen have like a favorite typo of the day for a while that he?
I think he did.
He had on Facebook.
Let's see. It's a lapsus in French is when someone. I think it's also like a malapropism when someone says it out loud.
Yeah.
That's really long. All right. Well, does anyone else have any more questions about that you want to ask Eleanor about any topic at all related to the things we've talked about now?
Or anything else?
Roll for Combat either says yes to that or to Author Dale's idea of doing another 3-action game night. A lapsus is an involuntary mistake made while writing or speaking, sometimes while studying philology.
The question is there music for her Starfinder band?
Yeah, is there official Strawberry Machine Cake music that exists that has been made?
Not that I am aware of. If somebody wants to make music, I'd be happy to hear it. Somebody made a song about the band. I mean, it wasn't meant to like represent the band. It was more like an homage to the band. But I don't. They've partially recorded it, but I don't know that I have permission to share it. But they did make a little song about the band that was great, but it wasn't meant to be a song that the band played.
So there is another question. Stephen from Roll for Combat asks, is there an intentional alternation in Lost Omens that's always like very lore heavy, then very rules heavy, then very lore heavy, or is it just what's appropriate for each book?
It's what's appropriate for each book.
All right. So let's thank everyone for their questions, and let's thank Eleanor for coming on and answering and telling us about things. And if you're just coming on now, let's link to what happened to the page that was. Oh,
it's there.
I see. Its preview is just called Home, but here is the game that Eleanor drew all the art for. And let's say goodbye to YouTube, but stick around if you're on Twitch because we're gonna give you XP again. Bye, YouTube.
Bye.
See you next time.